Test, 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 test. Test, test. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. I know there's a couple of you out in the bathroom and snacks still, but if you make your way on in here, we're gonna get rolling. I just want to say thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making it a priority. And then also, real quick, before we even get started, I'm gonna have Tim Roberts, if you would sneak on up here. He's a really sneaky guy. So I'm going to have Tim share some stuff with you. Tim has been doing a lot of work around sexual integrity. You've probably seen the sexual integrity stuff. We've talked about it. Tim and Penny and JD and Ashley have been co-leading that over the course of the last couple months, and that has been incredible. But I want you to hear from him, partially so you have a name with a face too, but also know who to go to with questions and stuff, and he's going to share a little bit of what's going on and coming up. So excellent. Hit it.
Hey guys, that's bright. So we just finished up our Sexual Integrity 101 class. We're going to launch into some pure desire stuff. We're going to do 7 Pillars of Freedom, which is a little bit more intense. It's a 10-month program, and we still have some open spots. So if anybody's interested, it's all about unwanted sexual behaviors, whatever that is. We all struggle with that, and so we're just trying to be at the forefront of what's going on. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or JD or.
Okay, so real quick, a little bit
What?
more like on like 7 pillars and stuff. Explain that a little bit. What are they signing up for? What are they getting into? What are they getting out of it? What does that look like? Time commitment, all that kind of stuff.
So 7 Pillars of Freedom is a 10-month commitment. It's small group, 7 to 8 guys, and we talk about sexual integrity and how the steps that we can use to eliminate shame in our life and to find peace and strength in numbers, I guess.
Yeah. Cool.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. Okay,
I'm not a very good public speaker.
No,
I'm better in a small group.
You're doing great. No, but here's one thing I would just encourage you. If there can be almost a little bit of a stigma, especially around this kind of stuff, of like it's a guy thing, right? So I don't have a problem. I don't struggle with this because every guy has this temptation, or every guy fights this battle. But I want to say, like, there's been something. It's been so exciting seeing the fruit, the long-term fruit of this group. We've tried all kinds of things in the past. We've done all kinds of different organizations, different kinds of groups, and I would say this is one of the most fruitful groups that we've ever seen. Like the long-term fruit come out of it is just powerful. And so if you're genuinely, seriously wanting freedom, like this is it. This is the best thing out there that we've come across. So yeah.
And just like Charlie was saying, I've tried a lot of ways to stop my unwanted sexual behavior in the past. And this is the one program that had God at the forefront, and the amazing amount of shame that was lifted off, and freedom that can be won.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's
Go
awesome.
ahead.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. Yeah, Jay?
Is it like once a week, once a month?
It's once a week, 2-hour meetings once a week for 10 months. And we're going to start in February is what the plan is. Yes?
And also there's homework involved,
There-
correct? There's lessons you go through, so there's work throughout the week that the individual has to participate in as well?
That is very, very good question. Yes, yes, it is, Chris. There is homework involved, and it's not just one day a week. Well, it's one day a week that you go to the group, but throughout your week, you will be having homework and just basically looking at your life through a magnifying glass, and with no shame.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Well, and the homework, there's a lot of stuff in this. You get out of it what you put into it, and so there's so much in this, and there's a lot of layers to it, right? But honestly, it is powerful and it is super fruitful. So if you're interested in that, though, talk to Tim. So yeah, cool. Thank you. All right, give it up for Tim. Man, well, once again, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for being part of this. I know we've even got some guys that are sick and guys that are doing some other stuff and joining us online actually tonight. So, but right now, what I want to do is I just want to remind us why we do this. Okay, really, my goal in all of this, my biggest prayer is that you will develop some iron sharpening iron relationships. Okay, I'm going to say that over and over and over again. You're going to get sick and tired of hearing me say the same thing over and over again. But that's my prayer for you guys, because most men men have buddies, right? I snowmobile with this guy, or I dirt bike with this guy, or I fish with this guy, or hunt with this guy, or whatever. But we don't have iron sharpening iron relationships in our lives. People who we're willing to be vulnerable with, and are willing to say, no, come on, let's go. I got you. Let's go. We're gonna storm this hill. We're gonna get there. We're gonna overcome this. And so my prayer, my desire for you is that in these times together, meet guys at other tables, get to know the guys at your table, but I want you to develop iron sharpening iron relationships with other men. So we're going to start off right away with an icebreaker. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes to walk through it. The question, at each table, there's a table leader that's just the person with the paper, okay? So the person with the paper, though, do me a favor. Take good notes, please. If you don't have a pen, grab a pen and write down the guys' names that are at your table. At the end, I'm going to ask you for applications and all that kind of stuff. If you can, write those on the back of that sheet of paper and hand those to me before you leave tonight would be awesome. But real quick, I want to modify a little bit this icebreaker question. So I'm going to give it to you first, and then I'm going to give you some time around your tables. The icebreaker question is this: is share a time when you became frustrated because of how someone else was being treated, and how did you respond? Another piece to that question that I want to add is, what did it provoke in you? When you see someone else being mistreated, when you see someone else treated unfairly or being abused or whatever, what does that provoke inside of you? Go ahead. All right, try to wrap it up in the next minute. All right. Okay, real quick, is anybody at any of the tables willing to share out loud? Have kind of a short and condensed version and of something you saw, something you experienced, and what it provoked inside of you. No. Okay. All right. Marcus? Anger? Okay. Like what? Like you want to share the situation at all a little bit?
Just seeing like my best friend just mistreating the way to their siblings, just acting like the stronger man.
Yeah.
When in reality they're just the better influence.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Provoked anger though inside of you. Cool. Awesome.
My stepfather used to beat my mother and all of us kids pretty severely. When I was about 15, he was beating my mom in the basement, and I came down and told him that if he wanted to beat on somebody, he'd have to beat on somebody his own size. He dropped my mom, came at me, grabbed my throat, put me up against the wall, and then I proceeded to beat the living crap out of my stepfather. And it was rage, just manifest. Pure rage. I probably would have killed him if I had kept going.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful I didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's tough one for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. It's huge. Anyone else? Want to share anything? I feel like, I don't know, I might be weird, but I feel like I've got so many of these. And it's like, I can think back of times like that where my dad was beating my mom and I jumped out and tried to be the guy at 8 years old even too, and just trying to like take those things. And then like, I remember there's this one time, lost my ever-loving mind. I was with my roommate. We were in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there was this native couple, and this guy was just curb stomping this woman, and it was just like I was ticked. And my roommate was driving, and I just yelled stop, and I like jump out of the car, and I was like call the cops, and jump out of the car, and I would just start yelling at this guy, and there's like 6 other guys standing around watching it. And I don't know what I was gonna do, like little white guy walking into this mess, but other than get killed, I don't know, like call the cops so they can come find my body, or I don't know, right? But fortunately, like all of them ran, right? And the woman just stayed there bleeding and stuff on the curb, and they just ran away. But I'll never forget, like there was something inside of me just wanting to track every one of those guys down, like what they were doing was so wrong. Right, and I want to hang out here for just a minute, because that indignation that rises up inside of us is a beautiful thing. That is a God-given thing. Okay, that's not an evil thing. That's not from Satan. That's not a wrong thing. That's not a bad thing. The tension comes though in what we do with it. Okay, we can have anger, right? And a lot of times what that does is it leads us to anger, right? If someone's beating us, we beat the tar out of them, right? Like it causes us to now respond with the same thing that they're doing. Like it's not right, but I'm going to do this back to you now, right? And there are some times we just like there is war necessary, there's whoopings necessary, there's fighting necessary, and God has put that dog inside of you to fight when necessary, right? To come to the rescue, to come to the aid of the vulnerable and the oppressed and the weak, right? But as men, we've got to be careful. Okay, with what we do with it, how we respond matters, because how we respond communicates this is how God responds. This is what God sees you. This is what God condones even too. And so the world is in desperate need of leadership. And so as we've been walking through the story of Nehemiah over the course of the last several months, and we've walked through all kinds of stuff. We started off with conviction and discerning whether I'm seeking God's kingdom or my kingdom, and what it looks like to act on that. We've walked through examining our lives and developing a vision and a strategy for our lives, and what does that look like as the challenges in our life are placed out. We talked about facing opposition and the battle and the fighting through the distractions, and really learning that when we take on something of significance, we're going to face opposition. But tonight, I want to talk about something that each and every one of us are going to experience. Okay, it's how do we lead through facing internal opposition? Okay, and not just inside of us, but inside our families. For some of us, some of it's inside our jobs. Some of it's inside. We're taking on this massive project. We're taking on this big job. We're as a family, we're taking this ground, right? We've decided as a family we're going to come together and we're going to do this. We're going to storm this hill, and then all of a sudden, the bickering starts happening behind the ranks, right? Within our ranks, it starts happening. There's all kinds of things that happen, and then I want you to hang on to this indignation thing here for just a minute, okay? Because Nehemiah, or if you've got your Bibles, actually, or if you've got a Bible, please open up to Nehemiah. We're going to be in Nehemiah chapter 5 here tonight. But Nehemiah, he's heard of the destruction of the wall around Jerusalem. But it's not new, right? It was 142 years prior is when this happened. He feels some sort of conviction to say, I am the man that needs to do something about this. There have been generations of men come before him that have come and died and did nothing, but I'm the man who has to do something about this. God has laid this on my heart. I'm going to do something. So he's cupbearer to the king. He goes to the king. The king asks why he's sad. He tells him about Jerusalem. He tells him about what God's put on his heart. And the king pays for everything. Gives him the supplies, sends him on his way, all the stuff, takes care of it all. And then, in the midst of it, then he walks around the wall, he prays, and then he invites others to join him in this great work. He doesn't do it alone. He doesn't just go walk around and just start stacking rocks. He realizes this is something he's not going to accomplish on his own. But if the people of Jerusalem, if this is important enough for God to call him to, then he's going to need to rally the troops. He rallies the troops, and then they experience external opposition, right? We talked about external opposition, internal opposition really in our mind, and then all the distractions. We talked about that last month. But now something starts to shift, okay? Now it's in the ranks. And in the midst of trying to accomplish a great task, they start to fall apart. They start to bicker. There's some problems inside, and I want you to hear this. It says, Nehemiah chapter 5, if you got your Bibles, follow along. We'll pick it up in verse 1. He said, Now the men and their wives raised a great outcry against the fellow Jews. Some were saying, we and our sons and daughters are numerous. In order for us to eat and stay alive, we must get grain. Others were saying, we are mortgaging our fields, our vineyards, and our homes to get grain during the famine. Still others were saying, we have had to borrow money to pay the king's tax on our fields and vineyards. Although we are of the same flesh and blood as our fellow Jews, and though our children are as good as theirs, yet we have to subject our sons and daughters to slavery. Some of our daughters have already been enslaved, but we are powerless because our fields and our vineyards belong to others. Now, why do you think at this point in the game, the men and women are coming to them saying, hey, there's a problem. There's a problem. We're being taxed by our own fellow Jews. They've taken all of our money. They loan us this money to pay for our fields, and when we're default on one payment, then they take the entire field from us. They take our sons and our daughters as slaves. And they're our fellow Jews. They just have more money now, and they have all this power, and they're using us. We are slaves to our own people. Why? Because there's some indignation, right? There's some injustice happening inside the walls of Jerusalem. They're rebuilding the walls together, but there's some injustice inside the walls. And I want you to think about this. Why did they feel like, what made them come to Nehemiah at this point? Think about it. Nehemiah had been with them for probably a little over a month at this point, not quite 2 months, but he led them. He'd done all this stuff. What is it? Help me and out loud. What is it that makes them that causes them to come to him at this point? What does their vulnerability right now reveal?
There's a man of action who's actually done something and stuck around long enough that, hey, he might do something with this problem too.
Yeah, that's huge. Anyone else?
Well, he was able to organize them for defensive and working, and they accomplished half the building or half of it in like 52 days.
Yeah.
So they understand that he, like he said, can get it done.
Yeah. Actually, they got the whole thing in 52 days, but yeah, it was half its height though when they started falling in. They started giving up. Yeah, their energy and strength started wearing out. Yeah, awesome. Okay, what else? Okay, seen as a safe person. Hang on to that, okay? I want to talk about that in a minute. Anyone else? What's that? Okay, yeah. So have you ever been in a situation, maybe even in a work situation, where you know something's just not right, but nobody's really willing to do anything about it? Right? And you ask around, you talk around, but everybody's like, no, that's just the way it is. Don't do anything, or don't say anything. You'll lose your job, or they'll write you up, or whatever. It's just not worth fighting, right? There's the corruptness of society, right? This isn't in the workplace. This isn't in the church. This isn't in our neighborhoods. This isn't in our relationships. This is in humanity, okay? This is in people. So anytime you find people, you're gonna find corruptness. It's the fruit of sin in our lives. That's what happens. But all of a sudden now, there's this man, right? All of a sudden, there's these problems. These have been problems forever. We've been crying out for help, but nobody's done anything about it. As a matter of fact, it's gotten worse for us. The more we speak up about the injustice, it gets harder and harder and harder. And so we've just quit saying anything. Well, at this point, the wall is beyond halfway built. And now they come and they say, hey, we've got a problem. We can't even afford grain to even eat right now. We're committed. We're rebuilding the walls. We're doing this. We're in, but we're being robbed from our own people. And the only reason that happens is if there's a man of action. A man of action who's willing to say, I'm willing to risk it all, and I'm saying, hey, enough is enough. I'm gonna call out the sin, okay? I'm gonna call out the injustice, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm not gonna, and not just call it out, but also provide a solution for it. How do we navigate this, okay? So a leader must be able to see the pain and feel the pain before they can lead through the pain. What Nehemiah does is he's in it with them, right? He's not some outside guy. A lot of times outside guys, they can see the dysfunction, but they can't really change it. They can threaten it from the outside, but they can't really change it. They don't change a culture. It's from the inside you change the culture. Nehemiah moved into Jerusalem. He was stacking rocks with them, right? He was doing the work right alongside them. He was seeing the pain. He was feeling the pain. He knew these people. He'd been working shoulder to shoulder with them. And now all of a sudden they're sharing their pain. He's able to see their pain. He's able to feel their pain and experience the injustice, and which allowed him to lead through the pain, through the injustice. Now, I want us to notice a tension. There's this tension between being safe and being strong. In today's society, Being a man means being strong, okay? Don't let anybody tell you what to do. Don't let anybody push you around. Don't let anybody, and nobody gets to decide anything except for you do. You're a strong man. You're self-made. Right? You don't need anybody. But if Nehemiah was strong and he was a tyrant, these people wouldn't have come to him. Because he was safe, he loved them, he cared for them, they were willing to come to him, right? So help me with this. Flesh this out a little bit. What does it look like in our day and age to be a safe man? Trustworthy. What's that? To be inwardly sound. Inwardly sound? Okay. Great. That's awesome. Okay. What's that? Trustworthy? Vulnerable? That's huge. Okay, there was another one. Trustworthy. I missed that one. Authentic. Okay. Empathetic. Huge. Good job. Yeah. Care for others? Yeah, awesome. Integrity. Yeah. Oh man. We've all guys that do one thing, say one thing and do another. Loyalty. Okay. Honest. Is that what you said? Okay, I'm going to stop with that one. Because that's often a word we use for women, right? Gentle. But I want to encourage you in something here. This list here, based on society's views of men, this appears as weakness. And yet, this is the platform. Almost like, you've heard the saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Nobody cares how strong you are or what you can accomplish if you don't care for them. If you don't care for them first, you're not the one for them. Because they're not going to be able to share vulnerably their concerns with you if you're not going to be a safe place for them to land. If they're going to lose their job, if they're going to be the butt of the joke now, if it's going to get harder for them, just like the Israelites were experiencing, it was getting harder every time they brought it up. If that's the common process, and that's just how society works, then, and if we're not a safe place to land, nobody cares how strong you are. No one cares what you're capable of accomplishing, what you're capable of pulling off, right? So, even though society doesn't value this stuff, this right here, this is the platform of leadership. This is where it starts. It starts right here. Yeah.
I have a question. When we define like society, are we talking about like the voting society?
No.
In New York City and
Yeah. Yep.
the strong category is shame. That's bad. Like don't be strong.
Sure.
Be this
Okay.
safe. Go in the other direction. So are we talking
Yep.
about society like where we live in Bozeman, Montana?
Well, okay. I'll change that back a little bit too. But so as far as okay. So great question. No, it's good. So as far as society goes, and the value of a man, when they think of a man, what we want is someone who's strong. But what we actually, that's by appearance. Okay. So even going back to King Saul, he was chosen as king because he looked the role of a king. Okay, he was his heart started off pure and stuff, but he fit the role of a king. He looked the part, and that's what we think of when we think of a man. That's what we want. Just the brawn on the outside. We don't care if he has a brain or a heart or anything like that, as long as he looks good, right? Society has reduced men to a lot of different things. If you watch any sitcom, a man can't even zip up his own pants. Really, he can't feed himself or take care of himself. He's pretty much an idiot walking around taking up space, right? But so strong. We've feminized men so much, society has, okay? But also on the safe part, as far as all of this stuff goes, this is care. This is the strength of relationship in this side. And men are so dumb by society standards that we don't even if we do all this stuff, we can't even do this stuff. But here's the thing. deep down, society was founded on this core principle. We are men. You are made. You are all men in this room. Okay, gender-wise, right? I'm not going to have you prove it. Okay, you're all in the room. You're men, and God has called you to be leaders, not just because of your gender, okay, but because you're alive. And society needs both women and men working for society to exist. Not just a male-dominant culture, not a women-dominant culture. So feminism and male dominance, both are destructive. Okay? So you're the only ones in the room tonight, so you're the only ones I'm talking to. Okay? We'll leave the woman conversation to the others. But what society needs is men who are strong. Okay, and I'm gonna actually leave. I'm not gonna say all the words I want to say right now because I want to hear them from you. But we need men who are safe. Men, and I'll say this: if you are not confident, if you're not courageous, you are not vulnerable. Right? You're insecure. Insecure is not safe either. Feminine is not safe either. I don't know that I can trust you. These things are actually strong. You look at inwardly sound. You look at vulnerability. You look at trustworthy, authentic, listening, empathetic, care for others, integrity, loyalty, honest, gentle. That man knows who he is. If you can define a man by all of those things, they know who they are. But society a lot of times would say, okay, you give them to me. Society's like, men today, by society's standards, what would society's list of this look like? Firm? Okay.
I feel like this is conflicting though, because there is the cliche version of a man that we can gravitate towards sometimes out of reaction to what society is telling us, which is to effeminize men.
Okay, say that again.
So society is telling that says that we should pursue equity, negating the femininity of women and negating the masculinity of men and making us androgynous. So that's what society's telling us. But there's a reaction in more of the grassroots level, maybe younger men, who know intuitively that's wrong, and so will basically gravitate towards things that demonstrate strength, like big trucks, guns, sports.
Those are all good. Those are all great things you mentioned. Yeah.
But they are the illustration of strength, not the essence of strength.
Exactly. Yeah, which is the perceived strength, but this isn't the perceived strength. This right here is the foundational stuff. And so it's under the safe category, okay? But this right here is the essence of strength. This is the essence of an authentic man. So give me pushback on me.
So in the tactical world, there's a difference between concealment and cover.
Okay.
You can conceal
Yeah.
yourself, but the things that conceals you can still get shot bullets through it.
Sure. Yeah.
So cover is something that has to be inherently strong and able to resist blows. So I just wonder about, you're talking about the foundation, even biblically speaking, a man is made to be a covering.
Mm-hmm.
So the foundational truth is that there is a strength there that can absorb the blows. But that strength is worthless unless it is submitted to that care that you're talking about.
Sure. So yes and no. So yes, a man is supposed to be a covering for his wife, for his kids, for things like that. But he's also not. It's a both and situation there. Okay, because ultimately God is our covering too. And so it's not we as men aren't God in that. God is our covering, right? And so we are both the individual and the cover, right? So what was the first one? You used two words there, cover and
Concealment and covering.
Okay.
So concealment is just a blanket, but a covering is a brick wall.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that you can have all those attitudes, but if you aren't able to absorb the blow, people align behind strong things because of its inherent strength.
Sure.
But like any tool, or the statement people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Sure.
That resonates with what you're trying to say, and I'm not trying to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'm just the idea of strength. You ask what society says is strong. I don't think society does tell us what is strong, which is why we have trucks and guns.
Exactly. Which well, I don't think that's why we have guns and trucks, but that's I still want my guns and trucks. But you're right. I think, I think they do have a definition for strong, but I don't think they're trying to tell us that they're just trying to, they're trying to get us to do something else, and we need to go back and we need to figure out what strength looks like. And so, but I would say, though, you talk about bullets coming at you, where you use the covering kind of thing. Okay, a man who is solid in this, right? This man can handle anything the world throws at him. Okay, as long as he understands who he is in God. Okay, as long as Christ is his foundation, this man's not shaken by the storms. Okay, the insecure, the proud, the arrogant, the stubborn, the dictators, you walk through that list. The society says that's what men are. They're just bullies. They're belligerent. They're prideful. They're arrogant. They're just dumb. They're whatever. They just do whatever they want. They're bullies. Whatever. Like that man is shaken by everything that happens in life. And then they're reactive instead of responsive. This man is responsive rather than reactive. You with me?
Yes, but I still know that that's true. There are strong men, they get things done, but we need to be strong men that get things done that are submitted to the things that God wants us to do.
Absolutely. So I guess how am I not saying that?
Well, there can be a strong, arrogant jerk who gets a lot of things done, and people will still hide behind him because they're safer. He can absorb the major blows.
Sure, but I would say that would be a facade of safe, or a facade of strength, and a facade of safety. I don't know that the people actually genuinely feel safe behind a dictator. They don't feel vulnerable, like they're going to go share their deepest, darkest secrets with them. They're not going to come and just say, "Hey, I'm selling my daughter to get grain. I'm starving." They're not going to go to a dictator and be able to have that conversation. So it's a facade of strength. It's not legitimate strength. It's a perceived strength. Okay, so I want to get to strength here real quick because I think we're missing part of the conversation. So in this, what is the tension between safe and strong? What does a strong man look like? Guns, knives, trucks, yes. Ammo, saves. We got it. What's that? Protective? Confident. Love it. Okay, what else? Okay, define that.
Self-assured. Self-confidence? Self-confidence, yeah, that's kind of the same thing.
Okay, so not pride, proud? Is that what you're saying there? Not arrogance, right? Is that what you're saying?
Doing the positive list now, not the negative list?
Yeah. That's why I was trying not to get too derailed there. So back to the positive list here. So yeah, not society's list. That was verbal. So okay, going back. I want to reroute us here a little bit. We derailed. Okay. So these men and women with inside the walls were ready to come to Nehemiah to say, hey, there is injustice in our ranks. Right here, there's a problem going on inside the walls. We're selling our sons and our daughters to be able to eat, and we're trying to build these walls, but yet at the same time, there's an injustice that's happening here, and you need to know about this. And the only reason that they were willing to go to Nehemiah was because, first of all, he was a safe place, because he was in it with them. He wasn't from the outside. He wasn't this strong dictator that just rode around and told people what to do. He was in it with them. He was one of them. He was from there, and he got in, he rolled up his sleeves, got his hands dirty, and started stacking rocks with them, loved on them, and led them. Okay? But he was also one who was calling out stuff. He was strong enough to actually do something about it. He wasn't just letting things lie. He wasn't like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, but if we upset this person, then they're not going to work on this part of the wall, and then that's going to upset this family, and that's going to upset this family, and then what are we going to do? No, he was strong enough to do something about it, and they saw his consistency and saying, and I know he's strong. He's safe and he's strong, so I'm going to be vulnerable. So they chose this time to be vulnerable. They watched his consistency play out, and now they're willing to bring their needs to him. Does that make sense? So he's also safe. He's both safe and strong at the same time. So what else? Give me some other characteristics here. I'm going to write a couple of them. Consistent. Focused. Okay. Focused. Okay. Action. Okay. Dependable. Okay. Available. I'm gonna add courageous to this. Cool. Okay. As we see this list, okay, if you can define a man by all of these things, okay, that is a man who is safe and is also committed to action. Okay, a man who is safe and strong. Now, this is a long list. All of things that I'm sure each and every one of us would love to be defined as. Okay, the question is, are we? Are we? Would our kids, would our neighbors, would our coworkers, would our friends, would they define us by this list? They're safe and they're strong. Or are they just arrogant? Do they just know what it is, and they're just bullheaded, and there's no talking to them. I've got neighbors like that, right? I got friends like that, right? They know everything about everything, and you're not getting through to them, and they're the experts, and yada yada, right? But are they safe? Are they strong? Are they willing to listen? Are they humble enough to walk through a conversation with you, to hear your perspective and get where you're coming? And then are they willing to change? Are they willing to walk through this progression that needs to actually take place? Does that make sense? Okay, so we got some table questions. There's like 4 or 5 table questions for you guys to dig in more specifically to this right here around your table. I'm going to give you like 7 minutes. Ready, go. try to wrap it up in the next minute. All right. Okay, now, if you can grab your Bibles, we're going to jump back into Nehemiah chapter 5, and we're going to pick it up in verse 6. Verse 6. And I want you to notice Nehemiah's response to the injustice. Okay, when he hears about the injustice, he obviously has even seen it and experienced it as well, probably within his time there. But when he hears of the injustice, here's his response. He said, "When I heard their outcry and these charges, I was very angry." I want you to pause here real quick, because oftentimes we can think of angry as being bad or being wrong. Like if someone is angry, but this is a righteous anger. This is a healthy anger, a good kind of anger. He heard their outcry and these charges, and I was very angry. But notice what he does. He doesn't just blow up. He doesn't lose his lid. He doesn't just beat people up, right? Here's what he does. I pondered them in my mind. Okay, so really what he's saying here is, I'm going to step back here and I'm going to think this through. What's going on? What's happening here? What's playing out? How is it happening? Why is it happening? What is happening that I don't even know about, right? Because if we just hear something and we act on it right away and we don't know the whole story, we're fools. Okay, and we usually look like it because we heard half of the story. We didn't hear the whole story. We got really upset. Something upset us, and we just went blazing ahead, right? But here's what happens. Lost it. He said, I pondered them in my mind, and then, get this, accused the nobles and the officials. Okay, once he had thought it through, he accused them. He confronted them. So here's the thing. It's not enough to just sit there, man, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. You poor thing. Like, man, yeah, that sounds really sad. I'm sorry about your sons and your daughters, right? But he confronts them. Now, confrontation is not being harsh. Okay, it's confronting injustice. It's revealing the truth in wisdom and humility, but also with courage. And this is what he does. Get this. He says, I told them, you are charging your own people interest. So I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, as far as possible, or get this, actually, something I want to draw out here. So I called together a large meeting to deal with them. Why do you think he called together a large meeting instead of just going to them one-on-one? Okay, witnesses, yeah, it's accountability, right? It's relational accountability. If you have this conversation in the assembly of the people, there's accountability. The people know there is a change that's going to take place. It's not just he said, she said anymore. And as far as possible, we have bought back our fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles. Now you are selling your own people only for them to be sold back to us. They kept quiet because they could find nothing to say. So notice in his anger, he didn't make up a bunch of stuff. He didn't exaggerate things. He didn't call it all. He just pointed out the actual problem. So I continued, what are you doing? What you are doing is not right. He was direct. As leaders, we have to be direct. You can't beat around the bush. We have to call out the problem. What you're doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? Like, shouldn't you before God live your life, not just trying to get gain for yourself, but before God live this out? I and my brothers and my men are lending the people money and grain, but now I want you to get this here, okay? Because Nehemiah doesn't just point out problems. I want to say something here, and I want you to get this. As men, we're really good at pointing out problems, right? Anyone can point out problems, which means we're easily replaced if that's all we're good at is pointing out problems, okay? We're actually no valuable at all. Pointing out problems is not a gift. Okay, providing a solution to the problem is beneficial. Okay, can you see the problem? Great. But can you provide a solution to the problem? And I want you to see this here. This is what Nehemiah does. This is so beautiful. But let us stop charging interest. Here's the solution, right? Give back to them immediately their fields, their vineyards, their olive groves, and their houses, and also the interest you are charging them. 1% of the money, the grain, the new wine, and the olive oil. Now, I want to pause here because here's the thing. This doesn't make any sense. If you this kind of solution, yeah, that's great for them, but what about us? No. The problem is everything was great for them, but not for these people, right? And so what he's doing is he's providing a solution that's actually going to make all of them stronger. It's beautiful how he walks through this, the intricacies of this, and if you do a deeper dive on this and the actual problems of what was happening in Jerusalem at this time, it's crazy. What Nehemiah proposes here is actually going to provide the strength for Jerusalem for the next several hundred years. Okay, it's powerful. So in this, the solution isn't just, hey, just stop it or knock it off, but hey, this has to happen so that we can flourish as a country. So one of the things that as men, this is a powerful tool. If you've ever read the book Crucial Conversations, I'll tell you the one gold mine in that book, save you from reading it, is before you have any confrontation with somebody, find out, what do I want for this person? Because usually when we step into a conflict, we know what we want from this person. I want you to knock it off. I want you to stop it. I want you to change. I want you to be different. I want you to, whatever, right? We want something from them, and it's usually behavior modification or change of something. But what do you want for them? See, Nehemiah, if he addresses this and, hey, what you're doing is wrong, but if we start doing this, then you're going to experience a flourishing economy. You're going to experience a flourishing society, and you get to be part of that. That's different. He provides a solution because he was able to get to the place of, this is what I want for you. So before we confront people, try to figure out, what do I want for them? Not just from them, not what I want them to change, but what do I want for them. I want them to experience a healthy relationship. I want them to have fun in the workplace. I want them to live free. I want them to have a healthy marriage. I want them to not sit in shame and regret or this or whatever. I want them to not just sit in bitterness and anger. What do I want for them before we confront the issue in their life? Does that make sense? Okay. Real quick, another set of table questions there. There's like 4 more there. I'll give you like 8 minutes on that one. Ready? Go. Try to wrap it up in the next minute if you can. All right. Now we're going to jump back into Nehemiah chapter 5, and we're going to pick it up in verse 12. And just to remind you, like we're talking about confronting injustice, right? For the strength of the community. Okay, so he's faced with injustice, and he's confronting the injustice for the strength of the community. In verse 12, notice their response. I want you to get this. This is beautiful. They say, "We will give it back," they said, "and we will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say." This is beautiful, because how often do we play out conflict in our mind, and we play out these conversations and they go a completely different direction? Or one of us, we end up blowing up, we lose our head, and it goes off the rails. We're like, oh man, that's not what I had planned, right? That's not where I thought this would go. But what happens is, as Nehemiah, when he heard the outcry, right, and these charges, he was angry, but he pondered them in his mind. He confronted them. He said, hey, shouldn't we walk in the fear of God in this? Isn't this how we should be living? And here's a solution. He didn't just complain, didn't just give the problem, right? He gave the solution, and their response is, we'll give it back. We will not demand anything more from them. We will do as you say. See, Nehemiah had created a culture where people were willing to take responsibility for their actions because of his respect, his reputation, his consistency, the trust that he had built with them. See, get this. They said, "Then I summoned the priests and made the nobles and the officials take an oath and to do what they had promised. I also shook out the folds of my robe and said, in this way, may God shake out their house and possessions, anyone who does not keep this promise. So may such a person be shaken out and emptied." This was a big deal, saying, hey, this matters. I'm serious about this. There's going to be repercussions from this. If you don't uphold your word here, you said you're going to do it. If you don't do it, there's going to be a price to pay. The accountability is intense in this moment. At this time, the whole assembly said, "Amen," and praised the Lord, right? Justice was finally served. And everyone in the room got to experience justice. Everyone in the room got to experience the freedom. And so when a leader is willing to confront the injustice and provide a solution that leads the community to a place of strength, the response is praise. The response is freedom. And I love this. Amen. And they praised the Lord, and the people did as they had promised. Moreover, get this now, this is where it becomes personal for Nehemiah. Moreover, from the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when I was appointed to be their governor in the land of Judah, until his 32nd year, 12 years, neither I, nor my brothers ate the food allotted to the governor. But the earlier governors, those preceding me, placed a heavy burden on the people and took 40 shekels of silver from them in addition to food and wine. Their assistants also lorded it over the people. But out of reverence for God, I did not act like that. Can I just say this? Just because other people in the same positions we hold acted like it doesn't give us the permission to do the same thing. We can be different. Just because a boss does this societally, or just because the boss before did this, or the employee in my position did this prior, doesn't mean I should as well. Instead, I devoted myself to the work on this wall. All of my men were assembled there for the work. We did not acquire any land. Furthermore, 150 Jews and officials ate at my table. Can you imagine that? As well as those who came to us from the surrounding nations. Each day, 1 ox, 6 choice sheep, and some poultry were prepared for me. And every 10 days, an abundant supply of wine of all kinds. In spite of all this, I never demanded the food allotted to the governors because the demands were heavy on the people. He was with them. Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these people. See, Nehemiah lives by example, and he leads by example. This would have been a huge problem if Nehemiah was one of the people that was charging interest and had all these slaves from their own people there, and he was acquiring all this land, and he was putting this burden on the people. If he was in the same boat that all the people he was reprimanding were in, this would have fallen apart really, really fast. Okay, and we all know people that have tried to cover up, tried to point out the fault in others while still doing the same thing themselves. And so our character, our integrity, they matter. How we live really, really matters. The strength of Nehemiah's leadership is just who he is and how he chose to live consistently over and over and over again. And because of this, because of Nehemiah's character and his integrity, it allowed him to confront the injustice and lead the people to a place of health. Men, God is calling us to live lives filled with character and integrity, and to lead, to stand up, to confront the injustice, not just confront stupid stuff, not just to confront things for confronting's sake. That's not manly. That's not fart. That's a fart maybe. I don't know. But that's just foolishness, right? But to confront the injustice and provide a solution, to want more for people. Society is craving safe and strong men who are willing to lead, someone who's willing to listen to them, but is also willing to do something about it. Not just sit there and feel sorry for them, and not just willing to just blaze in and do stuff and not listen and hear the whole story, but understand, listen to them and hear them. They're a safe place where they can come to us. Okay, most kids these days would say, the one person I can't talk to is my dad. Right? Because we're just action. We don't listen. But there's a lot of times like, well, we're really good at listening. I'm really sorry. I wish I could do something. Because we're not willing to risk our job, our reputation, our whatever, for the sake of justice. And when justice is on the line, God is calling us to say, hey, I want you to listen. I want you to hear. I want you to see the pain, and I want you to feel the pain, because I want you to lead people through the pain. I want you to do something about this. I want the world to be different because you're here. You're alive right now, and I'm calling you to lead. I'm calling you to confront injustice and lead people to a place of health for the community, for the sake of others, and for their benefit. And so, men, we have to lead, and we have to lead well. But it doesn't happen if we just sit around and twiddle our thumbs, right? It doesn't happen if we just do one or the other. This is what it looks like to be a man who's going to be a safe place and do something about it. So, at your tables, there's another round of questions, okay? And I want you to encourage you, plow through some of those. If you need to leave early, I understand, but if you can, table leaders, please. As you walk through this, please write the names of the guys at your table. Please give your table leaders an application as you're walking through this and how I can be praying for you this week. And then I would encourage you, at each table, pray for each other before you go tonight, all right? So jump into those table questions. Ready, go.